your husband with his what time is it thing too.
Well, and then the church as mother, but then the elders within the church as father.
And you had a thought, an insight on that question, Chuck?
Well, I just echo what Esther said, but basically we're to disciple the nations.
Okay. And I had a discussion with a neighbor just a couple nights ago about the issues that the church is facing, and was able to say that the church has received what the church has taught, and what we're facing in the political situation in Iowa's mess. It's the churches that have taught the culture, and we won't fix it until the church
That's what
teaches.
today's fellow says all the time on the radio too. And this is, see, here's the question I've asked many times, this very valuable question, and that is, our Lord says, going, disciple all nations, baptizing. Now the question then, we interpret that as baptizing individuals, but that, I don't think that's necessarily what all he's saying. How do you baptize, you see, a whole tribe, a whole empire? You see what I'm trying to say?
Well, if you only baptize here and there out of the nations, you haven't baptized.
You haven't done what you're supposed to, have you? In
And
other
that
words,
may be harder though in our society, because we have lost. Joe and I have talked about this some with Omnibus. We've lost the idea of the king being the father of the people, and the king gets baptized, and then everyone comes and wants to be baptized because the king was, and we just don't seem to have that kind of mindset. Everybody's an individual.
it might be, you know, and it could be, you need to baptize corporate heads if they are the.
Oddly, I was just thinking
that.
that, yes, because we identify with our teams. It might be corporations, or it might be our sports teams. What if the Green Bay Packers were to convert, and then would all the fans convert?
Yeah. Well, you see, these are maturing questions.
What if Tiger Woods is?
And you have
followers?
Esther, day 6. You have mother to adults, and we have adult civilizations here. How do you baptize?
Those are interesting things.
They're valuable. It's very scary.
Well, that was interesting because when we were learning about this, in Omnibus, one of the things that, I don't know, I forget who wrote that particular lesson, whether it was Doug Wilson or whoever, talked about how one of the few things in our culture where we see ourselves as a group is sports. And that's the only way we kind of understand headship, is to say, well, that guy played a really good game, but he still lost because the rest of his team didn't do very well. And we understand that, and we think that's fair, and that's about the only way that we can explain Adam's headship to people, because they just don't understand that concept.
And you know, coming home one night, I was listening to the sports shows, and this guy wrote a history of football, and he said they actually got together and made rules such that they made the quarterback the hero. In other words, that the rules were made such that the quarterback would be the man, and it was somehow related to the Wild West. I'm not sure what that's. But no, I mean, what I'm saying is, sports. Rosenthal Cussey says when he came over to America, he had to talk to people in terms of sports. He has a whole series of lectures on time as related to sports and in various perspectives. He couldn't talk to them about art or music or whatever.
Right, because they didn't know
He had to
anything
use
about
the
it.
language that they were in, you see. So baptizing the language would be another thing. Like Kirill and Methodius, you know, who they baptized the Slavs because they got the language and translated the Bible into it. Therefore, you see, that might be another way to baptize nations, creating new words and new symbols. You see what I'm trying to say? What is an ethnoi or an ethne? What is a kind of ethos? Is the word tribe, etc. Well, anyway, this is important. You see, what happens is when other people play the same symphony, they will probably start with our stuff, you see. But they'll improvise. It'll be more like jazz. Oh yeah, we want to do Opus 17, you see. And they could do the same things and start with our basics. but improve upon it.
Right.
What's my next question?
All right, we just answered day 4's question.
Yes.
Day 5 did not ask your question,
Okay.
so your next
Yay.
question is day 6, and you have written on that yellow pad a question to
How
yourself.
does participating in the symphony help us grow up to and relate to one another as adults? I don't know.
I think you wrote that one yourself,
I
so
think I did.
you have only yourself to blame.
It's your fault. Tua culpa.
Oh, thank you.
We're very linguistic. We've got German from Hannah, a little Greek from
Is it okay if I say anything? Or?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, we're all asking each other questions and then answering them, which parents know you don't do with little kids.
Right. Well,
The
yeah,
kid
we're
asks a
more or
question,
less
you say, "Don't
equals."
ask why." We're doing it this way,
Because I said so.
and so
So yeah,
Not
so
just
we're all
speaking,
we
not
are
just
all
speaking in the
equals.
imperative.
Okay, so what about day 7?
day 7 asked everybody. Just a second, I have it here, or if someone else has it.
Going through the wilderness.
Is that the wilderness
Yes,
question?
do you have to go through the wilderness to become a mature gospel man in your heart and town? Something like that.
I thought that was a good question because you had gospel in there because you were leading us to stage 4.
Yeah. Everybody's wilderness may be a little different. Is the wilderness sort of the transition? Well, it's the transition period. It is. In Israel leaves, and the wilderness is not, as somebody else said, not the destination. I mean, yeah, it's not the destination. It's the journey. And in learning and growing, whether it's learning to be a mother to adults, or learning what comes next, or learning learning what your heart is, or whatever. I think we've already said this. The wilderness is necessary. It's the journey through.
Okay.
Okay. That was day 7. Day 8.
As your wait a second. Does lack of maturity in the church contribute to making the problem of your heart and tone?
Yeah. Well, one of the things that is hard, I mean, just not talking about the church in general, just talking about our church, Chuck and Louise are the only people who have gone through this. I mean, the rest of us are all like, oh, how do we do this? Because most of us haven't had good examples from the generation ahead of us. We don't want to follow our parents' example. And so, yeah. So, yes, lack of maturity in the church does relate to that.
You know, we need to recruit more older people.
I think that's, well,
You know,
we
that could be a
really
missionary.
appreciated Reverend Dykstra when he used to come, because he just, although we may not have agreed with him with every jot and tittle on theology, he had so much practical experience and wisdom that we could draw on. So, we miss that.
Maybe retired pastors.
Mm-hmm.
That's good help.
Also,
Like that fellow we met at the Presbytery, the older fellow that was.
Glenn Connect.
Yeah, I really liked him. Wow, he's so cool. Have him in your church.